What's up, everybody? I was like, let me go take a sip of coffee. No, I ain't gonna do it because I'll be slurping on this microphone. But what is happening, y'all? It is Saturday night, and guess what? I ain't doing nothing, and I don't feel like doing nothing. I had such a great day yesterday. I had such a great day today. I cannot believe, though. Okay, I don't know if this is. This is my blog. So the most people who listen to this just listen to this for the hee-haw. So yesterday I ended up turning in 5 library books that I checked out probably a week and a half ago. Books that I did not read at all. Very unfortunate. When I went to pick those books up, it was really me just going through this, needing a little bit of library or cathartic or therapy session. So I was just going through my usual thing, picking out books at the library, knowing good and well I wasn't going to read them, but I took them back. Maybe in the future. And then I went to the bookstore and I actually had a 20% off coupon, and I didn't buy anything yesterday. And then I went to another bookstore today just to get out of the house because I don't do much on Saturdays. And I still didn't buy anything. I'm like, what's going on? I'm not buying anything. And you know what I'm doing? I'm reading the books on my shelves. That's what it is. I'm reading the books on my shelves, and just I'm in focus mode. It's really taking place now. But that's going back to this TBR that I made for the end of the year, which consists of cozy books as I posted. I'm continuing forward with the TBR. Now, I had to make a few adjustments after the first 3 books. I took one book off, which was the Abby Colette book. I read probably about 2 chapters, and I said I may want to come back to this later because I'm not really feeling it. But proceeding forward, as you know, last Friday I was reading Monica Ferris's A Stitch in Time, which is the 3rd book in her Needlecraft Mystery series. And I did a video, and I ordered the next omnibus collection of books, which consists of books 4, 5, and 6. So I almost had the urge to just continue going forward because I absolutely enjoyed reading A Stitch in Time, book 3 by Monica Ferris. I love her character of Betsy Devonshire. Okay, I love her. I just love this character. I love that she is trying to run this needlecraft shop that she inherited from her deceased or murdered sister that happened in the first book. I love that she is not very good at needlecraft work, but she's always trying to learn, and she just has that right balance of sweetness and sourness that I really look forward to reading about as as the mystery progresses forward. A lot of interesting things took place in A Stitch in Time. As I mentioned, one being that Betsy's brake line was cut and she was stuck in a snow mound when she almost passed away, actually. Someone gave her food poison and put arsenic inside of her potato salad. So it's just some more things took place, but the point is that there's no murder that took place within this book. The main antics or the main plot points involving the culprit and his or her motivation had to do with them attempting to put Betsy out or get Betsy out of the way, because Betsy was donating needlecraft materials to this church who found this old tapestry that was woven by an ex-minister's, I don't know the specific, really, it could be minister or pastor, I don't remember, I'm not really good with that stuff, but his wife had woven this tapestry, and they want to restore it with these new, with the donated materials from Betsy's needlecraft shop. Of course, Betsy is not going to be the primary talent in restoring the tapestry, but she does discover upon looking at the tapestry that there were it's a tapestry of Jesus, and there's the halo. So within the halo, she noticed that the original artist, the original needlecraft talent, wove some religious symbols into it, but these symbols mean something. They represent something. There's a code within it, and that code is led to the secret that the culprit of the book is trying to keep hidden. And so that's why Betsy, as a continuous force trying to uncover or decode the tapestry symbols, that's why that culprit is constantly trying to put her out of the game. I love this series, and I'm really excited to go into the 4th book because I got a little peek of what it's about, and it's actually going to have Betsy leaving the small community that's called Excelsior her leaving the small community, leaving her needlecraft shop, leaving the place that she just recently called home, within these first 3 books after moving from San Francisco. She's going to go to this resort where, of course, a body is going to be found, and then a subsequent investigation is going to take place revolving around her amateur prowess. I love in mysteries, especially series, when the author takes the main protagonist out of their usual settings and put them in an entirely different setting. One of my favorite mystery writers, or cozy mystery writers, I don't think she likes to be labeled a cozy, but it's Susan Wittig Albert, of course, right? The China Bell series. So in maybe every 5th or 6th book in this series, Susan Wittig Albert always takes China Bells away from her usual settings, the usual cast, and puts her in a different setting and that sort of thing. And she's, involving herself in a local or much more close knit, such as like a resort, or one of my favorite books, A Rueful Death, which had to do with a nunnery community or something like that. But the point is that I like that isolation feel, and I'm excited to continue the Needlecraft series to get into that with Betsy and see how she's going to respond to being separated from her usual resources, surrounding her community. So the Needlecraft series is still a plus. I want to stop waiting year. I don't know, for whatever reason, there's this sort of this annualness that sort of bubbled up out of me, in which I'm reading these books in December of every year. I want to try to get out of the groove of that, and I think I can manage that once I stop reading. Once I continue reading books that are already on my shelf. That's going to be my main focus for next year, to be honest, because I just got so much. And as I close this video out, I'm going to start trying to get some of these unread titles out that I don't think I have an interest in reading any longer. So the Needlecraft series was a plus. I'm really happy about that. So after I read A Stitch in Time, I attempted to read Carolyn G. Hart's Something Wicked, which is the 3rd book in her Death on Demand series. Now, as you heard me, I said attempted. This is the series that has to do with a main protagonist and a woman named Annie and her fiance Max. Annie runs this mystery themed bookstore on this place in South Carolina. I think it is either the South or North, but it's Carolina, on this island called Broad's Rock Island. But in this book, and I enjoyed the first 2 books in this series. I have my complaints. I think that Annie is kind of obnoxious, and I don't like the way she speaks to her fiance. And in this book, it's actually kind of the reverse. But in this book, Annie and Max are taking part in this stage play. Now, this playhouse on this island ended up being burned down, or partially burned down. But for the the director and the actors and the owner or whatnot of the playhouse, for them to get their money back, or not their money back, but for them to rebuild what was destroyed, they have to put on this play anyway. So they end up going to this defunct high school, specifically the defunct theater area in the high school. And they do the rehearsals and they got to put on the play. But there's an acrimonious relationship with the star character, which is a handsome young guy named Shane, who ends up being murdered, of course, by one of his fellow cast members. Now, so I'm just gonna leave it there and just let you guys know that I did not finish this book, that I did DNF it. Several reasons, or really one primary reason why I DNF'd it. I have said this time and time again, many times, as I come upon like 8 or 9 years making on this blog. I am just not the biggest fan of mysteries that have a theater or Hollywood or movie set theme to them. I do not, and I can't even explain what it is. If it's something tied to the entertainment industry, it's like my mind just is not interested in none whatsoever. And the worst offense of this is always, to me, it always seems to be the theater, the playhouse, the auditorium, the stage. I have no idea why I don't really care for these kinds of mysteries. I can say two glowing examples of what I loved, or ones that I did love, were written by J.D. Robb. She did Witness in Death. That had to do with an actress. Very good book. Even though it's been years since I read that book. And there's another book where she had to do with a movie star that was murdered, and I enjoyed that as well. But in the general sense, whatever reason, I do not like mysteries that take place in the theater or entertainment and that sort of thing. It's I don't know what it is. I honestly wish I could sit down and analyze it, but the point is that I got probably about 120 pages into this book, and it's just like it was driving me crazy. I cannot, we have to go to rehearsals. Everyone get on set. Let's go into the back room and let's rehearse all our lines. I do not know. It just bugs the crap out of me. And it's so crazy because when I was in high school, I was in the theater club, and I did a play, but I wasn't like a main principal actor. I can't act worth anything. It was just something to put down, right? Or something to give me something to do. And I had some small, minute aspirations of one day going to be an actor. But I got in my own way in that sense. But I did like some we're not gonna get into that. We're just not gonna get into that. But reverting back to the mystery thing, it just never seems to work for me. I just don't like these type of mysteries. Let's get on everybody on set, on action, and then something dramatic happens where it's actually somebody who's been murdered, falling down from the rafters and the catwalk and the light fixtures and stuff. I don't know. I think it's just because it's just played to me. It's just like a played concept. But anyway, that on top of the fact that it took there was a cat murder, which I'm not really bothered by. A lot of people get bothered by that. It don't bother me too much. Depends on how nefarious the actual killer is. But I mean, as far as like how, if you murder a cat, then you really have to go in on the human, right? That's what I'm trying to say, to keep me interested in the stakes involved, because anybody can do an animal. That's weak generally. But the point is that it took, I didn't even get to the part where the actual murder took place of the actor Shane. That's how bored I was with it. So, the Carol G. Hart series, I'm going to give the fourth book in the series a try. And then I think that's going to be the one that solidifies whether or not I want to continue this series or not. Because at the same time, given everything that is taking place in both the first three books, what I liked and didn't like, it's really hard to get into a series when you don't like the main protagonist as much. Or, like you kind of find them obnoxious. And as I stated already, that's the situation with the character of Annie and Max. First, I kind of liked them, and then it's just like, because they had this really 80s vibe to me. Because the series was published in the 80s. I don't know. That was just a connection that I've just put together for myself. Keep me reading, I suppose. But yeah, one more book and we'll see. So I recently just finished reading Peter Tremaine's Shroud for the Archbishop, which is the second book in his Sister Fidelma mystery series. And Sister Fidelma is a sister, of course, an Irish sister. And this series is medieval all around. The autumn of AD 664, the Holy City of Rome, is where this story takes place. Now, I don't know, as I said before, all the specifics on abbots and priests and ministers and brothers and sisters and those religious terminologies and titles. I don't know. I was raised Southern Baptist. I just say preacher, But in this particular book, it's the second book in the series, Sister Fidelma. She's the Irish religious woman and sister, and then she's also with this Saxon religious man named Idolf or something like that. But they are asked to investigate the murder of a religious man who had ambitions of getting higher in their order. He's found garroted in his room with a prayer cord or whatnot, and they go about solving the crime, and then subsequently more bodies start to drop, murdered in the same modus operandi. The only thing I can say, well, there's a lot that I can say, but the one thing that I do want to say is that I do enjoy these books. Um, when I say that the author Peter Tremaine does two things a lot, both in a good sense and both in a bad sense, he's very, 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 very heavy on relaying history in regards to his setting. I mean, he does it in context of, the characters' dialogue, their expressions, their emotions in general, the emotions of the story in general. He's very good on that. But for someone like me who isn't really tied to those particular places and who is mostly reading this particular cozy series because of that difference, that uniqueness, I can't always follow along with the religious context. But I do, religion and history as well, but I do still enjoy trying to, same with the utilities of that time. Sometimes I find myself looking up, what is this thing that they're talking about, right? So he does that. I mean, sometimes it can slow the narrative down, and sometimes it's just interesting to Google and look up more stuff. Now, another thing that he does that is either good or bad is Sister Fidelma. She's 28 years old. She's a young lady, a young woman, who's operating mostly, specifically in this book, in a man's quote unquote world, religious world. She is sometimes, if you really pay attention, she's oftentimes actually drawn as the smartest person in the room. It can be annoying at sometimes, especially because she works alongside a partner, brother Adolf, who was introduced in the first book. So she can sometimes come across as the smartest person in the room. She can also come across just a touch where a lot of people are drawn, male characters are drawn to her. He doesn't do it very heavy. I'll spot it when it's so heavy, but every now and again it comes about, and I just kind of look at it and go, yeah. And there was a scene in this book where Sister Fidelma actually had to, she sort of flipped this woman that was going crazy. She sort of like we're talking like karate type flipping this woman. And the author, at least he did run down where, reasonably, I'm assuming, because I didn't do for the research, but he run down reasonably why she would know how to do this sort of thing. But at the same time, it's almost like, why don't you just let another character step in? Sister Fidelma is kind of everything. And, you might find yourself annoyed with those different antics with this character. Me, I lean much more on the side of adoring them. But at the same time, I can't see why someone would be annoyed with Sister Fidelma. And listen, honestly, it's not that bad. I've read way worse. I'm talking about over indulgence, when an author has over indulgence in his or her character, and how they have to always have the moment in the spotlight. I've read plenty of them. Some of the most, and I don't even want to use this word tacky, but that's how it comes across at the end. It's like there's too much thirst in your character shining on stage. So I won't even say it's that close. It's not even that close. But I think that there's this, and I don't even want to use the word trigger, but there's this certain twinge that I get, like when I'm almost anxious and scared, like please, Peter Tremaine, don't overdo it with this character, because I generally like Sister Fidelma. I love that she is almost unassuming, but when she gets tied into these murders, but she's constantly she's the big head. She's the boss. Believe me, she is the boss in this series. But this is Shroud for the Archbishop was enjoyable. It took me longer than I had anticipated to read it. I did get to this point where I thought that maybe I was going to start skipping I'm just going to skip some pages and hit toward the end. But I just, instead, because I didn't want to ruin my experience with this series and I want to continue, and I love this series for its uniqueness, I just said, you know what, we're not reading today. That's all. We're not reading today. And then once I picked it back up a day later, which was yesterday, I just kind of flew through it and finished it the last 2 days. But yeah, it's great. I already knew who the killer was, basically. It was one of those situations that sometimes comes up in a mystery where you look at all the suspects and you go, You know, well, you got about 5 males and 2 female subjects. I'm much more inclined to believe that you're trying to dupe us with it actually being a female character. So you have to keep your eye out on that character. It's like the more that the author tries to sway the reader away from that direction, the more you start to turn inward and look and see that that's actually the direction that he's going to. And it's just a matter of you keeping reading the book until you find the connection alongside him. So Shroud for the Archbishop was great. I'm happy I finished it. I really am. I like this series a lot. It's so different and unique. And like I said, while I don't always get into the whole religious subject and the history of Rome and Ireland and the Dark Age and all that stuff, and the abbot and the abbess and that stuff, it's still enjoyable. It's still enjoyable just going into that world. So I actually have a couple of more books in that series that I bought in a lot sale back last year, last December. So the next 2 books are already available to me. So super happy about that. So I only have one more book left on my TBR, and that is Tracy Wilton's, which is a combined authorship. Tracy Wilton's Miss Morris and The Witch. Part of me wants to go ahead and start it tonight. It's about 6:09 now, and I might give it a go and see what happens. But I've reached my goal. Well, it's not a goal, but I reached 70 books this year. And, if I want to just chill out and relax, I can do that too. So that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I am out. Peace, love, and hair grease from TLC.